PI needs to be removed. Dude, isn't it crazy that for like an expansion and a half, everyone just constantly complained about PI being in the game? And then you haven't heard people just complain about PI needing to be gone for so long, partially because they nerfed it. But I think the other part of it was that like pretty much all of the hate that was thrown at PI was just redirected at AUG, because AUG was just like basically the concept of PI, but they just made a whole class about it. And then that just made everyone go crazy. And then everyone forgot. But now that AUG is dead, people are starting to bring up PI again because they are running out of things to complain about. I mean, PI was a legit issue, though. Like, I mean, this is like kind of inarguable. Power Infusion caused bad tuning updates and classes to be kind of nerfed for no reason, really. Well, not for no reason, but like, okay, let's say, here, I can show you on logs. Let's say this is what Warcraft logs looks like. Okay, so you're on Warcraft logs and you're looking at the top class. So this isn't true right now, I believe. Even if it is, just kind of ignore that it's true. But look at a boss like, I don't know, like a single target boss, like Sprocketmonger, and look at 95th percentile. Okay, so like, just whatever. Just take this all at face value. All right, so let's just say like Marksman Hunter was the best single target in the game, like Demo was and like Unholy DK was. And then imagine that Marksman was like only really at the top. Like basically it was like 1% better than whatever the next thing was, maybe less. And it got PI to make it a little bit better. And then they would nerf the class mostly due to PI. And then they would lose PI and get nerfed at the same time. And they would go from 1 all the way to like the bottom. That happened a lot. It happened to Moonkins. It happened to Demo Warlocks twice. It happened to Unholy DKs twice. I'm not sure if it happened, how many other people it happened to, but those ones definitely it happened to. I think AUG is a cool concept, but the lack of other supports makes people mad at only it. Nah, I think that's a bad take. I've heard that take a lot. Like, basically people were mad that there was only 2 DPS spots in dungeons. That was like the primary AUG hate. Was like 2 DPS in dungeons instead of 3, because it's just now a support 2 DPS tank and a healer. And if you had more supports, it wouldn't matter that there would still only be 2 DPS spots. It would just be a couple other classes being in that spot. I don't think that was like the root of people's issues. I think that was just like something people pointed to. They're like, it's just really, it's not that AUG exists, it's that there's not more of them. It's like, really, it sounds like you all just really hate AUG as a concept. And then you're like, well, it's only bad because we don't have more of this thing that we hate. It's like, that doesn't really make sense. I think the other part of it, and this is kind of still the rub that they can never really figure out, is the whole like, for them to make AUG decent and good for the people that it's designed for, which are players that want to be able to play with their friends that aren't as good, just straight up. Like that is what support is made for. By the way, that's not a bad thing. I think that's good for most games for that to exist. For it to be good for those people, it would be way too fucking broken for people who can hyper optimize it, because it is simply the most min-maxable spec in the game. So because of that, they're afraid of us giga stacking it. They're afraid of it being BIS and high Mythic Plus forever, even though there's very little optimization in Mythic Plus. That they just made it bad for those people, like the min-maxers, which makes it extremely bad for the people that it's designed for. So like AUG is still in the middle of nowhere, where it's like not good enough to be played at the highest level, and it's like just omega dog shit for everyone else. So I don't think you guys have seen the end of AUG. I think this patch, they basically said, you know what? AUG's been out for a year and a half, and it's been the best spec in Raid, literally the single most important spec in Raid for that entire time. And it has been required in Mythic Plus in every single season since it's come out. And I think they just said, you know what? I think we can do a season without AUG being good. Like, intentionally. They didn't try to tune AUG. They meant to make AUG bad, because they've tried to tune AUG a lot, and it always ended up bad. I don't think they ever truly want things to be bad, but they were like, you know what? Let's not have this thing be OP for once, and it ended up being bad. And I think that's fine. You know who else has to deal with that? Every other class in the game, except for mages, probably. Where, like, you have a patch where you're bad. So, I don't think that's the end of the world, but I don't think it's going to stay like that forever. Like, AUG is not going to be like that forever, so we'll have to wait and see. Wow, I didn't fully grasp how bad single target tuning was until I saw this chart. Oh, this isn't, I mean, this is historically pretty normal. So there's a weird thing about when you look at like high percentile statistics on classes, especially ones with multiple DPS specs, is that in general, the higher classes, the classes that are doing really well, are going to naturally overperform because the best players will be playing them, and the lower ones will underperform because the best players will not be playing them. Like, you could apply that to basically this entire list, but let's just apply it to simply mage, right? So if you're a banger mage player, what is the chance that you're just ripping Arcane in Mythic Raid right now? It's extremely low. Arcane is harder, and it is less tanky and does less damage. Why on earth would you not play the class that is easier, has a cheat death, and also has a better profile for like all the hard bosses in this raid? All right, so you wouldn't do that. So naturally, when you're looking at the 95th percentile of Arcane Mage, it is, if the same players that were playing Fire were playing Arcane, just for the sake of argument, Arcane would just be simply higher than it is right here, you know? So like, so that's just like how a percentile list is going to always work out. So it's always going to be slanted like this, and it's, in reality, the things at the top are closer to the middle, and the things at the bottom are closer to the middle in reality. In fact, I want to say, I think WoW is probably an impossible game to tune, but I think Blizzard is often over criticized for tuning, specifically in raid. I think their raid tuning has actually been like really, really good for like a pretty long time too. You can always expect a couple outliers and some things that are underperforming, but like most things are viable. Actually, all things are viable in every tier, but most things are viable in single target. When you get into cleave and stuff, that's where like WoW becomes literally an impossible game to tune. Like, for example, this slant on pure single target is what it looks like in Final Fantasy, where outside of the Savage that just came out, they basically only have single target, and their classes are basically only tuned for single target. AoE and cleave is pretty much a meme, or like a dungeon thing. Very rare in high-level content, except for the brand new Savage that came out. They have an ad phase. And their single target looks, in some cases, even worse than this. Right, I think WoW's balanced for what they, and they also have a third of the amount of specs basically in Final Fantasy as they do in WoW. I think WoW does a pretty good job with it.